Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It's 8:55 a.m. It's Monday, August 26th, and we're going to do a little something different this week for this week's preseason slate. Thursday, all 16 teams play. We don't got it broken up all weekend into Monday, into Thursday. It's not broken up this week, everybody. So, with that said, instead of analyzing all 16 games in one video on Thursday morning and driving myself nuts and crazy, and trying to fit that into a half hour, and two, driving you crazy and potentially having to watch an hour video, I'm going to break it down by position. Today's going to be quarterback, tomorrow running back, most likely tomorrow running back. Wednesday is going to be wide receiver. Thursday, probably tight end. We'll probably throw tight end into wide receiver. And then on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. East Coast time, before the games lock, I'm going to go live. We will talk about the entire slate. So we'll have sort of these individual buckets of positions, then we'll have the holistic view of it. You can also get my Patreon rankings. All of that will be updated on Wednesday. For all the positions, those are the rankings for every single position for this slate on Thursday. Huge slate. I'm excited. The preseason is going to come to an end. Not many starters, so the people who actually do the research and are not just sitting there writing articles, doing podcasts, whatever it might be, saying, this guy seems like a good play and just giving you no substance to it, they're not going to know what the hell they're talking about this week. Let's get into this video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sal Vetri. We're about to hit 6,700 subscribers, 6,600. I'd appreciate if you get any value from this video to hit that subscribe button. If you're somebody who has been along for the ride through this whole journey, thank you so much. We've been doing this for 10 months. The football season, I'm expecting a lot of growth, and I cannot be more excited. I'm officially doing this full time. So, with that said, let's get into the quarterbacks. Down below, before we do, actually, I'll just point to, go to the description below. There's going to be some free things down there. There's going to be free PDFs, Discord. You could also purchase my NFL Daily Fantasy course, How to Win Money in Daily Fantasy Football for the NFL season. Everything I know about it, very in-depth. You can look into that. Also, Patreon is linked down below as well. It'll be linked at the end of the video. That's all the housekeeping. We're going to do quarterbacks today, and stay tuned for the rest of the channel. Hit the subscribe and like button if you would do so. Appreciate that. So, again, it's Monday. There's going to be more news that's coming out the entire week. So I figured that the quarterback position was the good one to tackle first, because we could pretty much assume that 75 to 80% of the starting quarterbacks, if not more, are not going to play in this week at all. And we kind of know where to go in terms of third or fourth stringers and how often they're going to play, if not the entire game. So not a lot of news in terms of quarterback play and how much opportunity is going to be there, but more so the running back, the wide receiver, somewhat the tight end. So that's why I'm going to wait until Tuesday and Wednesday to tackle those positions, because I'm hoping we get more and more news. With that said, I have a couple of interests, and I have a long list of interests, really. There's going to be about 10 or 11 that stand out, 9 right now that I do have interest in. And we'll start with the 9 that I have interest in. First off, Dwayne Haskins Jr. So they just named Case Keenum the starting quarterback. I highly doubt Case Keenum will play in this game. Just name him the starting quarterback. Why play him in week 4? If he does, it's not going to be long at all, 1 to 2 drives, but I highly doubt he plays. There's no reason at that point. Colt McCoy is still injured. There's no timetable on his return. And then all you have on the roster, many people will think that it's just Dwayne Haskins based on the past couple of weeks of play. It's not just Dwayne Haskins. They have Jalen McClendon, who they signed on August 13th as sort of this 4th, 5th, 6th stringer. If you count Alex Smith, who's going to be out for like the entire year, still with his leg, gruesome injury last year. So Jalen McClendon, I imagine, sees some work in this game, probably some fourth quarter mop-up duty. But with that said, Dwayne Haskins is going to be locked in for the entire first half of play, if indeed Keenum is ruled out, which I probably by the time you're watching this, he probably will be. And then I imagine Dwayne Haskins plays the third quarter and into even the fourth quarter. This is a guy who was a first-round pick. They said that Case Keenum is going to be the starting quarterback as long as nothing goes wrong with Keenum in terms of playing poorly or injured. Dwayne Haskins, it's not going to be a week-by-week competition. They want to see as much as they can out of this kid. If he's not going to play during the regular season, get him in here as long as you can. There's a real chance Dwayne Haskins plays the whole game, but I will point out that Jalen McClendon is on this team. I believe he's an NC State quarterback. Out of NC State. So, keep that in mind. Dwayne Haskins is definitely in play. Trace McSorley, the guy who was the MVP last week, he had a rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns, played over 3 quarters in that game, absolutely balled out. Penn State product himself. Lamar Jackson is not going to play this game. There's no way they're putting him out there. The only other quarterbacks on the roster are Trace McSorley, who will be active for this game, that is. Trace McSorley and Joe Callahan. Callahan, the former Packers quarterback. He saw a little bit of the fourth quarter, a couple of drives in that last week, while Trace played all 3 quarters into the fourth. I imagine the same thing happens once again. Trace McSorley will start this game against Washington's backups. Trace McSorley is versatile. He had 4 rushes for 6 yards and a touchdown, but that man can move on the ground if pockets open up. The fact that he'll be playing now not only against backups like he did last week, but he also played against starters last week when he started that game for Jackson. This week for Washington, he's going to be playing all backups to start the game. This kid is crazy. Like, he's good. Trace McSorley is very, very good. I'm going to have a lot of interest in McSorley, probably more so than Dwayne Haskins. We'll see what the news comes in. Ryan Griffin. So these first four that I'm going to list have been sort of, and there's another one that's five, have been sort of the QBs that have stood out in the preseason. Dwayne Haskins, or at least last week. Dwayne Haskins really not in that list, but Trace McSorley last week. Ryan Griffin has been the consistent staple all 3 weeks in terms of being fantasy relevant. You're not going to see Jameis Winston this week. All you have after that is Blaine Gabbert and Ryan Griffin. Right now, Blaine Gabbert is not practicing. He did not practice yesterday. He did not practice today. If Blaine Gabbert does not play and Ryan Griffin is playing all 4 quarters to start Philly's backups, their third and fourth stringers, Ryan Griffin is going to be the best play on the slate, more than likely. This guy has been getting all the snaps in terms of the preseason, the most work, because Jameis only played really last week and the week before for like 1 or 2 drives each of those first 2 weeks. Blaine Gabbert's been seeing a quarter, and then it's just been the Ryan Griffin show in the second half of all these games. And I imagine Ryan Griffin gets more than that in this upcoming game. He is going to play probably 2.5 quarters at a minimum if Blaine Gabbert plays. Gabbert at 1.5 quarters at most. I would really honestly expect if Gabbert plays only 1 quarter, Ryan Griffin to play all 3. And if Gabbert is injured and he is not playing, you're not putting Jameis out there, Ryan Griffin is going to play all 4 quarters. Ryan Griffin has been probably the best overall quarterback in fantasy for the preseason so far, in terms of having the opportunity and making do with that opportunity. Play Ryan Griffin if Blaine Griffin is out. Blaine Gabbert is out, and that's as easy as it gets. Taysom Hill's been a monster in the preseason in his opportunities, right? So Drew Brees is not going to play this game. Brees played 1 to 2 drives last time. Teddy Bridgewater came in right after him. I am hoping and praying that Teddy Bridgewater starts this game, because if that's the case, Taysom Hill is going to play at least the second half, most likely 2.5 quarters. Teddy will start the game, play all the first quarter if indeed he's active, which I expect, and then play some into the second, I would imagine. So with that said, 2.5 quarters of Taysom Hill would be the most that he's seen this preseason, and this man has been balling out in his limited to somewhat extended run of 1 to 2 quarters. I would expect 2 to 2.5 really minimum here in this game for Taysom Hill, and again, he's going to be playing against third and fourth stringers, who he is levels better than. This man in 3 preseason games has 113 rushing yards, and that's in pretty much 5 quarters of play, 5.5 at most quarters of play. I expect 3 quarters is a real expectation for him. 2.5 is a floor. With his rushing upside, there's a lot to like in Taysom Hill. So those guys I've listed so far, Dwayne Haskins, Trace McSorley, Ryan Griffin, and Taysom Hill, have a ton of opportunity coming their way with a ton of skill. The 5th guy that kind of falls into that same bucket for me is Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham for the Patriots, he's their third-string quarterback. Tom Brady will not play this week. Jarrett Stidham has been taking all of the snaps. He's led the quarterbacks in snaps every single week, and he's looked pretty good. Last week, Brian Hoyer didn't play. I imagine Brian Hoyer plays week 4, but there's also probably like a 50-50 chance he doesn't play. So if Hoyer plays maybe 1 quarter, Stidham's going to play 3 quarters. Hoyer might not play, and I think there's a real chance that he doesn't. If he doesn't play and this gets ruled out tomorrow or Wednesday, well, Stidham's going to play all 4 quarters. And these Patriots wide receivers run pretty deep, right? I mean, we see Jacoby Myers leading the team in snaps. He had 58 snaps last week. He's going to continue to get run because he's like the 4th wide receiver on this team right now. It's not like, or the 5th wide receiver, really. It's not like he's some star that they don't want to get injured. Jacoby Myers will continue to stay out there. They have a couple of other guys out there that are pretty decent, I would say, to good. Also in the running game as well, you're going to get Brandon Bolden going deep into this. So there's talented players alongside Stidham. So a lot of quarterbacks to choose from. It's going to come down to who gets ruled out in terms of the backups. But right now, the ones that stand out the most are Dwayne Haskins, Trace McSorley, Ryan Griffin, Taysom Hill, and I don't know, I can't see. It's Jarrett Stidham from the Patriots. The guy who's last on that list is probably right now for me Dwayne Haskins, honestly, which he can, if indeed Jalen McClellan is not going to play in this game, well then Haskins playing 4 quarters is obviously great, but you're also going to have all these other guys playing 3 to 4 quarters as well, and in my opinion, they just have overall higher skill and better wide receiver depth. Definitely better wide receiver depth in terms of the Patriots for sure, and Tampa Bay as well. Those teams are really deep at wide receiver. The Saints not so much, but Hill's rushing upside is fantastic. And then Trace McSorley, the Baltimore wide receiver depth is actually pretty decent. They have great tight end depth, so that helps as well in the pass catching game. And they have some good running back depth in the pass catching game. And Trace McSorley has rushing upside. So those are the 5 guys that stand out right now. And since we're just going to do a quarterback only video right here, let me cover some more. I will also point out that if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, whether you're watching this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you're late and you're watching this Friday, Saturday, hit the subscribe button. My goal is to get to 7,000 by the first week, Monday of week 1. So that's a week away from today when I'm shooting this. We're at about 6,600. If we could start the year at 7K, that would absolutely make me ecstatic. So I appreciate it. If this video is helping you at all, hit that subscribe button. Check out Patreon down below for my tiers, or my NFL course you can check out below. And follow me on Twitter, @SalVetriDFS. So there's the mid-roll advertisement. We got it out of the way. Look at that. Snuck up on you. Hits you with that one right over the head. A mid-roll advertising. Wow. Okay, so they're not really secondary options, but some more guys I clearly have interest in. Ryan Finley for Cincinnati. This guy's been fantastic. He's somebody who last year didn't shine as much. He reminds me of sort of the situation that DeShone Kizer is in with the Packers. He's young. He's really young coming out of ND. DeShone Kizer's 23. Ryan Finley was in that spot last year. Another year of Finley kind of developing and aging in the system, and he seems to be pretty good now. Second and third quarter is what he played last week. But here's my worry about Finley. I think he's going to be very good. Dalton's not going to play. It's just going to be in the backups here, probably just Finley and Delega. And if that's the case, I really don't know what to expect too much. You're going to have Finley, you're going to have Delega, but Delega played the whole fourth quarter last time. Finley played the second and third. So you have another quarter kind of to go around with no Andy Dalton playing. Imagine Ryan Finley starts this one. And if Ryan Finley's going to start this game, he probably plays at least the whole first half, probably 2.5 to 3 quarters, which is good, right? But some of those other guys that we mentioned above are going to play the entire game, or at least a minimum of 3 quarters. The fact that I don't know what exactly to expect out of Finley because they kind of gave more run to their third, fourth stringer, Delega, in the last one. He played the fourth quarter and had 12 attempts. Finley played the second and third, and part of that is due to game flow, other running backs in the game you want to see, but he only had 20 attempts. So I think Finley's fantastic. Opportunity will be there for him and a lot of other guys, but it comes down to kind of weeding through who's going to play that extra 2 to 3 possessions in this game. And I think he plays 2 to 3 less than the Stidmans and the McSorleys and the Ryan Griffins. Potentially the same as Taysom Hill, but Taysom Hill just has so much more upside due to his rushing ability. And also, he's been a really effective passer this preseason. 94 rating in the last game. He had over 100 rating the game before that in terms of Taysom Hill. So, and then we can expect potentially Dwayne Haskins to play the entire game, or at least 3 quarters at minimum, when I'm kind of projecting Ryan Finley to go 2.5 at minimum. Other players, Joe Webb. Joe Webb was disgusting last week, but Joe Webb played once again. He played about 3 quarters or so. I guess you can say he played about 2.5. Deshaun Watson played pretty much the whole first. And then Joe Webb played the second and third and into the fourth quarter a little bit. And then Tayom, I don't know, the Hawaiian dude came in and mopped up in the fourth. I think that Hawaiian dude, Ta'amu, I think it's Ta'amu. Let me know if I'm right. Ta'amu, I think, is going to play probably a quarter in this one, maybe a little bit more. Joe Webb has rushing upside, looked absolutely pitiful last week. If this was like a 3 or 4 game slate, then yeah, Joe Webb's probably one of the best quarterbacks on the slate. But we're comparing Joe Webb's about 3 quarters of play in this game, 2.5 to 3 quarters of play, I would project. We're going to compare that to 3 quarters plus for Dwayne Haskins, 3.5 to 3.5 for Trace McSorley, potentially the whole entire game for Ryan Griffin, potentially the whole entire game for Stidham. So those quarterbacks overall are better in my opinion. Now Joe Webb has the rushing upside to kind of maybe leap them. So he's not in like any sort of not play him zone. There's a lot of quarterbacks to choose from, and he's one of those that is probably, when I do my tiers, going to end up in tier 2, somewhere towards the middle of it, just because you have so many good quarterbacks and so many good opportunities. Also take into account that Houston's wide receiver depth, outside of the obvious starters when Kiki Kute is healthy and they're looking for a 4th starter now, or a 3rd wide receiver to pair with Fuller and Hopkins, they're saying. But the depth on that team at wide receiver is not that good compared to some of these other players, and you have to kind of take that into account as well. Who else is on here? Logan Woodside. So Logan Woodside played 55% of the snaps last week. Mariota has not looked good in the preseason. Their offense has looked very stagnant. Aside from a preseason week 2 touchdown to Delaney Walker, the offense has looked bad. I don't expect Mariota to play. I expect to get sort of 1 to 1.5, probably more so 1.25, so like 3 to 4 drives out of Tannehill. And then you're going to have Logan Woodside playing really the entire second half and like half of the first half maybe. So some upside there. I would say 2 to 3 quarters what I expect from Logan Woodside to play in this game. So clearly not the same opportunity that I'm projecting for some of these other quarterbacks early in the week. But he's a guy who saw a ton of snaps. He's going to see more snaps. I do like the idea of kind of getting to a Logan Woodside who will play the entire second half and part of the first half. And the Titans' wide receiver depth is actually like pretty sneakily okay. I won't say good, but it's better than some of the other options. Better than Houston's. Their wide receiver depth into their second and third stringers is not that terrible. Couple of last guys to kind of hit on, Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. So CJ Beathard in the last game sat out due to an injury. Keep an eye on this. They do have Wilson Spate, I believe, the quarterback out of Michigan. I believe he's still on the roster. So I think he's going to get some run in this game. He has not seen run in the last 2 games. You saw run week 1 barely for like a drive or 2 in the fourth quarter. You're not going to see Jimmy G in this game. So I expect Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard for the most part to split this game, but there's a really good chance Spate comes in for a quarter. So keep that in mind, because you can't just project this for 2 quarters for Nick Mullins, or maybe 3 for CJ Beathard if he's healthy, since he didn't get to play last game. Maybe they go 2.5 for Beathard and 1.5 for Mullins. I don't think you can project it that way, because I do think Spate might play a half a quarter to really a quarter. So if that's the case, and Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard are healthy and active, I think they're going to give more work to Beathard. He probably starts this game because he didn't get to play last week, and right now Mullins is kind of ahead of him on this depth chart. This has probably been the most interesting quarterback two competition between Mullins and Beathard. They've been so close, but last game, like, Beathard didn't get to play, so injury might actually ruin his chances of getting the backup job. And I think all preseason Mullins has been the better quarterback. But if indeed they're both active, keep an eye on news about Wilson Spate, because I think he'll play a quarter, which then means CJ Beathard probably starts and plays 2 quarters. Maybe Nick Mullins plays 1, and that's not enough upside for me to want to get to CJ Beathard, who, first off, is going to be playing, although they'll be backups against the Chargers, going to be playing against the best, right, in quotes, the best possible defenders on the field if he starts, not getting as much run as nearly all the other quarterbacks we're talking about. The only reason I have Nick Mullins listed here, a guy who I don't think sees more than like a quarter of a half a play in this game, is because if CJ Beathard is injured once again, he's somebody to keep an eye on, because I imagine they'd run Nick Mullins for at least a full half. But then also Wilson Spate becomes very interesting. I wouldn't have interest because I don't think the kid's very good at all, but he would be virtually unowned. If indeed CJ Beathard is ruled out again, which I kind of doubt at this point, he needs to get on there to kind of save his job or his backup chances. But if indeed he's ruled out and no Jimmy G, keep an eye on Nick Mullins, see what they say about his playing time. Keep an eye on Wilson Spate if he'll see increased playing time. That's my main interest. Players that are sort of on the bubble for and I need to see more news about. So Danny Etling for Atlanta, there's going to be no Matt Ryan in this game. It really depends on the backup quarterback situation. Matt Sims did not play the last game, and then Matt Schaub also did not play. So see what those players are doing. If there's no Sims once again, I would imagine Danny Etling's playing about 2.5 quarters in this one. You probably get Matt Schaub to start and play 1 to 1.5 quarters, but also keep an eye on Matt Schaub. If Matt Sims is injured once again, you're not going to see Matt Ryan. If Matt Schaub sits out once again, which I don't expect, but he might, right? The primary backup on this team, why let him go out there when you have 2 other quarterbacks that you can just give a run in the 4th preseason game? There's a really good chance Danny Etling plays the entire game. Like, Matt Sims is still questionable, no Ryan, and potentially no Schaub. The entire game would then be in the hands of Danny Etling with some pretty good wide receiver depth on Atlanta. You have Russell Gage. It depends on how long or who's going to be starting alongside him. You have some tight end depth there, clear Brian Hill and some other guys at running back depth. So Danny Etling becomes a very sneaky and under-the-radar guy who's potentially going to play the whole game. Now, again, I'm shooting this on Monday, so I'm trying to project what's going to happen. By tomorrow, he might be in line to play the whole game if they rule out Sims and they say Schaub's not going to play. He clearly shoots up my rankings, and I'm going to have those all updated for the first poll either by tomorrow night or Wednesday, so make sure to check those out on Patreon. The guy who is probably not going to get any of my interest, to be completely honest with you, but Nathan Peterman. Here's the reason and my reasoning as to why I think Peterman is going to see decent run in week 4. So the Raiders played the Packers on a terrible field in Winnipeg for that. The game was almost canceled. Lots of players got injured for the Packers. St. Brown, their talented young wide receiver, second-year guy. Rashawn Gary, their rookie pick, got injured as well. So here's what to expect. This guy went out there and played 80 to 85% of the snaps at quarterback over Mike Glennon on this field that was just disgusting and terrible. So what this tells me is, yeah, they actually value Mike Glennon. Like, you're not going to put him out on that field. So I believe Mike Glennon is the primary backup right now, which means usually if you're the second-string quarterback, you're going to play much less in a preseason game than the third-string quarterback. So in my eyes, if you're playing Nathan Peterman on a terrible field and giving him 80 to 85% of the quarterback snaps, then yeah, if he's going to play in week 4, or if you're going to play any quarterback for an extended period of time in week 4, he makes sense to be that guy. So I would expect him to play most of week 4, and when I say most of week 4, as if he's the third stringer, like 3 quarters, 2.5 to 3 quarters. So he starts to become interesting because he's looked decent in the preseason. A couple, last week he had 200 yards in that terrible environment. Not a good rating overall, but at least he has that volume. But again, lots of other quarterbacks have that volume on this slate. So keep an eye on Nathan Peterman. I imagine he is going to be the guy who gets the most run in this game. If they name him the starter for this game and they don't rule out Mike Glennon, then I don't have as much interest in Peterman because I imagine Glennon plays the second half. If they name him the starter and Mike Glennon is ruled out, I don't expect Derek Carr to play. Well, obviously he's going to play the whole 4 quarters. So just to kind of summarize everything, these guys are going to play 4 quarters, some of them, right? It's a matter of finding those players. But don't overhype them playing 4 quarters as automatic locks, because there's going to be some guys who play 3 to 3.5 quarters. And really, when you're playing 3 to 3.5 quarters, the only difference is about 2 possessions. So if you're telling me that I could have Danny Etlings for 4 quarters, or I can have Ryan Griffin for 3 to 3.5. I want Ryan Griffin. He's the better quarterback. He'll have the better weapons on the field at that time. So the whole 4 quarters is going to sound very sexy, and it should. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty, whoops, hit my desk, everything almost blew up. When it gets coffee almost spilled, oh my god. When it gets down to the nitty gritty, Yes, choosing the one with opportunity makes sense to kind of filter your pool. But then when it's the difference between one possession or two possessions, I would much rather have the guy who's going to be in the more effective offense in terms of skill, and he himself is more effective. So when it's the difference between 1 to 2 possessions, in terms of having 9 possessions or 10, yeah, it's nitty gritty. I want the skill level at that point. But overall, look for the overall run. We'll kind of recap this on Thursday. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and that notification bell so you can get notified of when I go live Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Follow me on Twitter for any updates or changes to that schedule at SalVetriDFS. You can ask me any questions over there. Please hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it so much. My name's Sal. Check out everything in the description below. Download those free PDFs. Make sure to go down there. Check out the NFL Daily Fantasy course if you want to learn how to win more money in DFS and stop hitting the deposit button. My name's Sal once again. You already know that. Peace out, game.
Hey, hold up. 1 second. Check out this page. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, all right? And if you're interested in Patreon, if you're not already a patron, you can hit that button on Patreon, become a patron, it will take you right there. You can also check me out on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. And hey, if you're interested, this next video that's about to pop up, why don't you check it out as well. See ya.